All right, you ready?
I am ready.
I'm psyched. We have Zak Rosen today, people. He is from the Best Advice Show. We had the pleasure of being on his show a little while back, and we're going to leave that in our liner notes for today's episode. But before we get any further, how you doing?
You just go
I
right
didn't
ahead.
even ask.
No,
I know.
I know. Just
okay.
I
just want to get to business.
It's your show. Go ahead.
Okay. Before we get any further, please like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a rating on Spotify or a review on Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way. We appreciate it. And we're not going to mess around. Today, we're just going to jump right in. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Zak Rosen from the Best Advice Show today on Skiptown All-Stars.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to blow up your comfort zone at the tender age of 50? Well, we did just that. When our last kid went off to college, we hit the road in search of a new hometown. Now we bounce from city to city and bring you along for the ride. This is the Skiptown All-Stars podcast.
What's up, All-Stars? Welcome back to another edition of Skiptown All-Stars. We are psyched to be with you today. We have Zak Rosen from the Best Advice Show. We had the privilege of being on his show a little while back, and we are excited to have him as a guest with us today.
We are. So the way that we met Zak was we were obviously a guest on his podcast, and we started a conversation with him that led to a discovery, and that is that Zak is doing something really, really cool with his family right now. And we thought it would be the perfect time to have Zak share his story with our listeners. So Zak, introduce yourself, tell everyone a little bit about what it is you do, what your podcast is about, and what you and your family are about to embark on.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. I am here in Detroit, Michigan, where I've lived for most of my life, and I am a journalist, a podcaster. The Best Advice Show is a little sliver of the podcast pie that I bake every week. I work on other shows. I host another show for Slate with two moms called Care and Feeding, where we talk all about our kids. My kids are almost 7 and almost 4. Excuse me. And I help other folks make shows as well as their producer or editor. And so I'm a freelancer. I work out of this office here and have been making, well, I used to call it radio back when I was on the radio, but now we call it podcasts. I've been making audio stories for my entire professional career. So since I graduated from college in 2006. And I'm 40 years old, and my wife is a physician, and a couple years ago, when our kids were still very young, we thought it would be really cool to not move permanently out of Detroit, but go and do a big family adventure before the kids become too enmeshed in their, scholastic and social lives. And it started as a fantasy, and it is, I'm still hesitant to call it a reality because we haven't done it, but we're leaving in 3 weeks. If you see my office, I'm packing it up. We're very close. I guess I'm superstitious. I still think something's going to happen where it's all going to come crumbling down, but we're going. We got our plane tickets. We are going to Amsterdam for the year, and my wife is going to pursue a master's degree in public health, and my kids are going to go to an international school, and I will make podcasts and try to interview some Dutch people about various things. So yeah, it's real. It's surreal. We are just in the midst of checking 100 boxes to make it happen, which I know you two can relate to.
Well, if you're watching on YouTube, I have to laugh because you're a little glazed over. I'm not going to lie. You're a little tiny bit glazed over. And I love the fact that you say you're a little superstitious about it, that, is it happening? I live my life that way. I hardly ever utter what I'm going to do. I'm just in fear personally that if I say the words out loud, it may not happen.
That was
so
your
I
advice
always,
to me. Absolutely.
So yeah. So I appreciate that from you as well. But I want to ask you, there's so many questions, but the first question I have to ask is why Amsterdam? But then we're going to go back into how it started and all that. But seriously,
Sure.
Why that country?
Yeah, we kind of reverse engineered this this move by thinking about what we want in our lives. We live in the Motor City. Detroit is literally called the Motor City. We each have a car. We drive everywhere. This is how we've lived for most of our lives, and we love cycling, and we just like want to be in a place where we don't have to own a car. And so that was like one of the motivating factors. Where's some of the best biking? And Amsterdam. I just read this morning. There's actually more bikes than people.
I've been to Amsterdam, so I can attest to that.
Yes. Yes, we've been there a couple times and it's crazy. I mean, there's traffic jams of bikes and it's unbelievable. So the biking was honestly one of the motivating factors, but it was also this program that my wife found. She has a job running Detroit's STI and HIV clinic. So she's an infectious disease doctor, and she found this program with it's like a global sexual health concentration, and so it's going to help her do her job here in Detroit a lot better. And she was able to get some funding for it, and so basically biking and public health is what's bringing us to Amsterdam. We know no one there.
Oh, that was going to be my question.
It's not like we're
So no infrastructure in terms of your personal lives or anything. You seem to do a good job of making friends, Zak.
Thank you. Yeah, we do. We've had some friends say, "Oh, my friend's there," or "My friend's friend is there," or "My friend's cousin's friend is there," and so I have reached out to some folks who seem cool. None of whom we've met, though. You know what I mean? So we're gonna definitely have some play dates and invite people over for dinner, which is a great way to start a relationship. But we have no friends there, which is, I don't know. It's kind of a fun gambit just to think like, okay, we're going in with 0 friends. We're gonna come out with more than 0. I sure hope.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So, well, I just have to say, I know you only have 3 weeks left to pack, and I know what it was like for us when the 3-week mark hit. That was really when, reality gut punched us and we realized everything we needed to pack up. So what's the plan? Are you renting out your house? Are you, storing stuff in storage? What about the cars? All that.
Yeah, I really appreciate these granular questions. This is the world that I'm living in right now. So thank you for asking. We found some renters, so we're gonna rent our house. They are, speaking of friends of friends, they are friends of friends. So we've met them, we trust them, they seem wonderful. We're gonna keep it furnished, which makes it a lot simpler because again, we're just going for 12 months. And so I'm just clearing out all my books and my office so one of them can work in here. We're going to pack up our kitchen and just put it in storage in the basement and in the attic. But otherwise, we're going to bring clothes. We're going to bring some, really, I want it to be very minimal toys for the kids.
Right.
And I don't know, like the book that I'm reading now, and like I'll go to the library for any subsequent books. You know what I mean? Like I want to try to keep it as taut as I can. My wife doesn't like when I start editing her packing list. She's like, dude, she's like, we're going for a year. We can each have 2 suitcases. Like she's set on bringing 8 large suitcases. I'm thinking maybe 6, but who cares? Like 6 to 8 is basically the same thing. It's going to be a shit ton of stuff, along with our 90-pound dog and our 2 kids. So the travel day is going to be epic.
Do you have a driver picking you up? Like, do you have somebody helping you once you land? Like, you have a dog, you have 8 pieces of luggage. Do you have 2 minivans?
Yeah.
Like ready to go?
Right.
Like, tell me, how does this work? I need to know, when you boots on the ground land in Amsterdam, what is happening?
So this is not a paid advertisement, but maybe it should be, because if any of you out there are about to move to the Netherlands, I have the best company for you. They're called Dutchify. I found them on the Amsterdam Mamas Facebook group that I joined like 2 years ago when we started talking about this. There wasn't an Amsterdam Papas, but
is this a Facebook group? You said Facebook?
It's a very active Facebook group for expats coming to the Netherlands, coming to Amsterdam in particular. And I was just looking around there, that's been an invaluable resource. And someone mentioned this group, Dutchify. They not only are a real estate company where they will help you find an apartment, but they also have all of these other services. They're helping us get our utilities turned on. They're going to help us start a bank account. They will help you get your visa established, and they will pick you up from the airport.
Wow.
So that's a long answer to your question. They've arranged, they've found some taxi van to pick us up, but they have been unbelievable, because without them, I would have to be going, I'd have to be establishing contact with 10 different, institutions inside the Netherlands, which is would be very hard because I don't speak the language. And so they've been unbelievably valuable and worth the cost is basically the price of 1 month's rent. And so
wow,
it's
Wow.
they are incredible.
They saved you so much time. Are you kidding? Like,
So much
where do
time.
you even start? Like, looking for an apartment, and do they send you like suggestions for apartments? And I take it that you're getting one that's furnished, correct?
Yep, that we told them our constraints. We need a furnished apartment, one that is dog accepting, one that's close-ish to the kid's school and close-ish to Shira's school. And they go and take like high-def video
Oh, that's
on these
awesome.
tours. And they even called me from the one that we ended up getting, because they thought that I would really like it. And so they just FaceTimed me around this apartment, introduced me to the landlord. And without them, I don't even want to think about what I think it would have required me going there ahead of time and doing a bunch of scouting, which we just don't have the time or energy for.
yeah.
So yeah, Dutchify.
That's a great service. I'm not a huge
Yeah.
Facebook group fan. I just never have been. I don't know. People
Me
tell me.
neither.
I mean, we have this travel podcast, and I don't belong. Do I belong to a travel group on Facebook? I don't even think I do, because I just am not like, I don't know why. I just have never done it. I have no idea. So when I hear people say they're part of groups and how helpful they are, I always think, I should do that.
Yeah, I mean, for super niche things, similar to podcasts, I mean, for super niche things, it can be so helpful. I was thinking about bike insurance, because we're going to get like a big, e-cargo trike that the kids can fit in. Maybe the dog can fit in. I don't know. So it's going to be expensive. And so I'm reading up about bike insurance, which is just such a specific thing that like a Facebook group is perfect for. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Things you don't think about.
Are you selling your
Yeah.
cars?
No, we're gonna store them, one at my uncle's house and one at my mother-in-law's house. Bless their hearts.
Wow,
And they'll
that's
just drive
really
it around the block every week or so.
Yeah.
That's really nice of them. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it
because
is.
driveway space is, it's a commodity in
Yeah.
some places. So that's very
Yeah.
nice.
So one interesting thing that we've seen, obviously we spend a lot of time looking at travel lists or city lists or crime lists or what have you. And one of the things that's been interesting is in 2022, Detroit was still, near the top in terms of crime rate per capita and everything. But then just in the past, I would say 18 months, I keep seeing it as, on these lists of cities that are just totally making a comeback, bouncing back in the right direction in many, many different ways. Can you speak to that at all? Have you seen some of that in your personal life?
Yeah, I mean, both things are true. There's still a ton of violence here because there's a lot of desperation here, because there's a lot of unemployment here, because there was this mass exodus of jobs.
Right.
Back in the 50s, there were 2 million people in Detroit. And if you wanted a good paying job where you could send your kids to college and maybe even buy a place up north without even maybe graduating high school, you could, because you could work at the plants. Everyone worked at the plant or worked at a company that was associated with the plant. And that was true for a long time, because Ford, Chrysler, and GM all made cars here for a long time. And then that all started to change when there's a whole number of reasons, but factories left. Essentially, that's the TLDR version.
Right.
Factories left, and therefore jobs did too, and automation set in, and we're now the peak of the population of Detroit was, I think, 1950-ish, and now we're 75 years later, and the population is about 600,000, and so a lot of the city was built in a lot of ways for millions of people to live here.
Right.
And It's a single family home city, so it's huge. It's 140 square miles. Like it takes 45 minutes to drive from one end to the other. It's massive, and there remain lots of empty homes. Lots of people rely on the underground economy to make a living, and that is where you get a lot of the violence. My car was broken into once, and like some CDs were taken. So this happened so long ago that CDs were still in my car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, I have not met. We haven't been robbed or mugged or anything. I mean, Detroit is an incredibly friendly city, and yes, there is violence. We do hear gunshots. I'm not gonna lie.
Uh-huh.
And we also have a really amazing neighborhood with super engaged people of all ages and races, and it's an amazing place to be. And to your point, James, Detroit as a comeback city, the comeback really has been made possible on the backs of people who have stayed here for all these years and committed to keeping their lawn cut and their neighborhood safe and their block clubs active. And because so many people left, there was a time when it was really affordable to live here, and so artists were able to buy houses for $500, literally $500. Back when I moved here for the first time. You can't get those deals anymore. There's a lot of foreign investors that have bought up huge swaths of land. They'll from China or Texas or wherever, they'll buy 20 houses sight unseen and just sit on them, let them blight until hopefully that property becomes more valuable, and then they'll sell it. So there's all sorts of issues with that. But if you are someone who's wants to roll up your sleeves and fix your house, you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I worked on an HGTV show where it was Detroit. There was a couple that specifically would, flip these smaller houses in Detroit. I mean, they were maybe 2 bedrooms, 1 bath type houses. And I'm pretty sure it's still on the air and everything, but it was a whole sort of industry there. So for the kids, they obviously have their school now. What do you know about the school that they're going to go to? You said it was an international school, right? And so for those of us who don't know, our kids never did that. We're past the curve on that. Why don't you explain sort of what that means?
Yeah, so there are these schools all over the world that cater to expats, mostly people that are, they work for some company that is relocating them to Amsterdam, and so they need a place to put their kids. And so this is a school specifically for people who aren't planning on staying in the Netherlands permanently. And so it's English speaking. The one that we're going to happens to be subsidized by the Dutch government, so it's a lot less expensive than some of the other international schools. We looked at some that are $30,000 a year.
Yeah, private school type things.
Yeah,
right?
college tuition.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's just for one kid, and you have 2.
That's just So there's no way we could afford that, and so thank goodness we found this one. It's called the Amsterdam International Community School. Again, thanks to this Facebook group. Shout out Amsterdam Mamas on Facebook. So we applied there, and I mentioned that this plan has been in the works for a couple of years. So we sat on that wait list for maybe 2 years. And it's a very crowded wait list. And so we just got in a couple months ago after that long wait. So I'm really grateful. They seem wonderful. Yeah. I've talked to people whose kids have gone there.
Would you have waited? Would you have not made this trip if the kids didn't get in? Was that a deciding factor? Would you have pushed the trip a little bit until the wait list opened up?
Yeah, if we didn't get in there, there's a Jewish school there that I spoke to the principal of, which seemed great, also affordable, and I think we would have considered sending them there. However, it's in Dutch, and because we're just going there for a year, I had mixed feelings about throwing them into a school where they know know the language at all.
Yeah.
If we were going to stay there again, I think like, oh, that would be great immersion, you know?
Right, of course.
But because we're only going to be there for one school year, I felt a little worried about that. But thankfully, we didn't have to cross that bridge.
So I love the fact that you're open to meeting new friends. Like, you know, with our adventure that James and I take now, clearly we're not looking at homes, you know, outside of United States, but it's the same situation. Like, people have asked us, are you worried about making friends? How are you going to make friends? So you already have a few connections. But have you and your wife actually talked about, I mean, she's in a program where she's going to meet other masters, you know, students.
Right.
So that seems like an easy way to meet people. But for you, you work at home. You work behind a microphone. Are you concerned at all, or has it crossed your mind like, I'm going to be inside a little bit more than she is? How am I going to, you know, how's it going to work for me? Or is it just like, hey, it'll happen when it happens?
Yeah, I think the magic thing that I keep going back to is this year. It's just 1 year, and therefore, like, I like being alone. Like, I like having, you know, time to myself during the day. So I'm not so worried about it, because I also know that we're going to meet families from the kids' school.
Yeah.
And there's a really vibrant, you know, like radio documentary scene that I know I'm going to plug into there. And so, no, I'm not worried about it. I know that I'll find people, and I'm not like, again, like, I'm not looking for a new best friend. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for some platonic companionship for the year. And I know that also the year's going to go by really, really fast, especially if we consider the fact that we will likely do a good amount of traveling, like on the weekends and stuff. So it's not like there's going to be a ton of time just to establish deep-rooted relationships. If that happens, that'd be great too, because I'm sure we'll want to go back and visit if we do make some good friends.
Yeah. What's one of the things you're like most excited for? Everybody has, you know, their own impressions of what Amsterdam has to offer culturally and all that. But, for you personally, like, what is something that you're really leaning into, that you're really excited about when you get there?
I'm really most excited to live this kind of cliched European life where I can like go to the fish guy and go to the cheese guy and go to the the farmer's market and, you know, cook great dinners and, you know, just eat like really great local produce and get everywhere on the bike. I mean, the city is small. It's like half the size of Detroit. It's half the population of Detroit. You can get anywhere on bike, it seems, within like 15, 20 minutes. There's a forest near our house where we'll go with the kids a lot. I mean, I'm really just looking forward to, you know, finding the good coffee like you guys do in your new cities. The weed is great. Like, I like smoking weed, but it's like that's legal everywhere now, so it's not a novelty like it was when I was 19.
Well, I find it to be funny because when I was there, the only ones that were smoking weed out in public were the tourists. Like, if you're a local, you're not bothering with that because you're like going to work and you like have things to do. And so I was looking around and I was just laughing because I was like, the only ones getting stoned here are the tourists.
Totally, yeah. And there's like the tourist section, like Dam Square, and like I'm sure we'll kind of pass through there, but I'm looking forward to not being kind of in that mix.
Well, wait till you see the flower mart on the boats. I don't know if you know about this.
I was just reading about that yesterday.
Yeah, it's pretty darn incredible. So who's ever listening, you haven't been to Amsterdam, they have a flower market, but it's actually on, I think it spans 4 boats or 5 boats. I'm not sure how many boats on the river. Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah, so that's going to be,
dreamy.
You're going to take some good pictures.
Yeah. I'm also looking forward to having family and friends visit, because I mean, I don't know if you guys think this, but when I find that when I travel, I love a city the most when I'm seeing it through a local's eyes. So if we have a friend in a place, like, they know where to go. They know where the good coffee is. They know where the good public art thing is.
Yeah.
That's, you know, slightly off the beaten path. And we'll hopefully get to know that path and then be able to take our family and friends on that too. So that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be exciting for you to be a tour guide in a place where you're not even a resident.
Yeah.
But so you mentioned traveling on weekends. What are your do you have a hit list? Like, do you have a top 3 places you want to take the kids while you're there in Amsterdam? What's the situation there?
Well, my daughter really wants to go to Paris. And we've never been. That's another thing. That's another place where, like, depending on who you talk to, some people will say like, "Oh, it's overrated," and then other people will be like, "Oh, it's amazing," but you have to like do this specific thing to get kind of outside of the Eiffel Tower, the Eiffel Tower pack. So, I think we'll go to Paris because I have an acquaintance there who can kind of give us that treatment that I was just describing.
That's so perfect. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. We heard of from this woman who my friend connected us with, who lives in the Netherlands, who will hopefully meet in person. She told us about this crazy beautiful night train that goes to the Austrian Alps.
Wow.
So that seems super dreamy. Did you ever read your kids' Polar Express?
Yes, of course. Oh my gosh. And we've seen the movie, so yes.
Yeah. So I'm just imagining like Polar Express, and then we end up in this mountain town in the morning. That seems like a really fun trip to do, like over Christmas break.
Yeah.
I have a friend in Brussels. Maybe we'll go visit her. But really, I mean, I think the small town Holland vibes are going to be very cool. Like, there's a city that's only navigable on boat. Like, there's no roads in it, so you can just go and like rent a boat and just putter around. Like, that sounds so dreamy to me.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we don't have any plans, which I think is good. We're just trying to keep it open.
Yeah, I don't think people who have never been to Europe probably don't realize or know that you can get around everywhere by train, and it's just within hours. So it's a really beautiful way to visit Europe. Is you don't have to hop on a plane. You can just get on a high-speed rail. I mean, when I was there, we went from Belgium to Amsterdam, and I think it's 3 hours. I can't even remember, maybe 4 hours. I don't know what the time frame was, but it was super easy, and it's so great. So yeah, so you're going to end up coming back speaking a few different languages, and my guess is.
That's right.
How long ago were you there?
This was in 2018, I believe. So so James and I did a trip to Paris, and we went to Spain and France, and then I went with a friend to Belgium and Amsterdam, and we did France also. So it's France, Belgium, Amsterdam, and that was in 2018. James and I did, I think, 2012 or something like that. So so you're gonna have a great time. My gosh.
Yeah, you're getting me excited.
So I have a couple questions for you I wanted to ask. Going back to Detroit a little bit, talking about Detroit and born and raised there. I was just curious, because everyone has a love for their city. What do you love about Detroit?
Man, so much. First of all, it really starts with the community that we have here, because I've lived here most of my life.
Yeah.
We have, first of all, I mentioned we have 2 kids. We have 6 grandparents here. My parents. My dad, my mom, my stepdad, my stepmom, and my wife's family, my wife's parents, they all live within a mile of each other. So
that's incredible. And that makes a difference.
For someone with young kids, it's the greatest thing to have grandparents. My sister lives 15 minutes away, and then some of my best friends who I've been close with since kindergarten remain here. Like, we have a monthly dinner that is standing at the same restaurant every month.
So it's the community, that keeps you there.
Yeah, so that's number one. That's the thing that's going to bring us back to Amsterdam. Like, that's primary. We just can't walk away from that. Secondly, Detroit is just like the most interesting, creative city I've been to. It's the birthplace of Motown. It's the birthplace of techno, garage rock, and so there's always music here. The public art. There's murals all over the city. There's some of the best artists. I mentioned a lot of artists have moved here, from the opportunity of affordable living. But there's also a lot of native artists here painters, sculptors, musicians. So like any given weekend, there's an opening at a gallery that's totally fun. And now, my oldest, my 7-year-old, almost 7-year-old, is old enough to like want to go to these things with me. So that's just so fun. We live about a mile north of Belle Isle, which is this 1,000-acre island park.
Oh.
So it's like Detroit Central Park, but it's an island. So you drive over a bridge or bike over a bridge. And my daughter's actually at camp there right now. I just dropped her off before we got on Zoom. And so we go swimming there in the summer. We can, you can snowshoe there in the winter. It's beautiful. It's the same landscape architect as Central Park, Frederick Olmsted. So that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. And back to all the land that became available after so many people left the city. Detroit is now one of the most vibrant urban agriculture cities in the world.
Oh, is that
because
right?
of the open space.
I've actually read that, yes, about urban
Yeah.
open spaces and gardens and whatnot. That's been for years though. That's not new. That like started. I would say
That started in the
like
90s.
Yeah, that was a while ago. But I do have a question for you. So we've been to different areas where people who are from there have reinvested in their town, in their city. Now that you've done this and you still love living there,
Yeah.
outsiders coming in, what is your thought about that?
I think it's just person dependent. Like if there's a new person coming in that is like afraid to engage with the people that have been here and they're unfriendly and they think they're, and they don't nod and say hello, then like those people are obnoxious. But if you're coming here to be part of a community, to learn from people that have been here, to be transformed by Detroit, not just to transform it yourself, then like welcome. That's
So you're open. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, there's the gentrification is a big word that's used in Detroit, and in a way I'm a gentrifier. I'm someone who came in from somewhere else, in my case from the suburbs, and had the fortune of being able to buy a home at a time when our property value has probably doubled or tripled since we bought it. So like I am very lucky to have been able to. We're very lucky to have been able to buy our house when we did.
What year did you buy it?
We bought it in 2014, so 10 years ago.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. In the spirit of transparency, I like talking about money. I think it's important. We bought our house, a 2,000 square foot, 100-year-old home in a historic neighborhood for $130,000.
Wow.
That's great.
And yeah, I mean, you can't get that deal anymore.
That's great.
So we're very lucky. We're benefiting big time. And I don't know, have you been reading about the Michigan Central train station that Ford bought in Detroit?
No, I have not read anything about that. So tell us.
Yeah, it's this amazing. It's one of the most beautiful buildings that was just this slumlord basically was just sitting on it for years, and then Ford bought it from them about 10 years ago, and has just done this stunning renovation on it, and they're going to bring a bunch of like thousands of Ford workers, kind of like future of automotive tech, like people who are trying to like marry tech and cars. I'm not in the know enough to know like exactly what these jobs are, but it's not manufacturing jobs. And so they just did this renovation, and already there's people in that neighborhood who are worried that they're going to get displaced because thousands of new workers are going to come in. Property values are already going up,
right? And
some people already can't afford their rents. But their next door neighbor who maybe did buy their house 30 years ago is thrilled that their property values are going up. So that's just all to say that like some people are very excited about the quote unquote comeback of Detroit, and other people are a little more fearful of it. So it really just depends.
It also depends on how the landscape is going to change. I mean, they bought this beautiful building and they're going to revitalize that building, make it, keep it probably the same from the outside, make the inside beautiful. But when developers start to come in and throw up, hundreds of houses in a, a 1 mile radius, that's a little different. So I guess it depends on how the landscape changes. I mean, we've seen this across the board when they take an area that everyone appreciates and then destroys it with, track homes. That's another story.
With soulless buildings everywhere.
Yeah. And and then you still have people saying like, oh, change is still good. It doesn't matter. We're bringing money in. No, not always. Not always. We've seen actual towns ruined by change.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully that won't happen there.
Yeah. I mean, there are always two conversations. One is about housing, and the other one is about homeowners, and they're not always the same conversation.
Yeah.
So if you own your house, like you said, it's a different story than the people who rent from the people who own those homes. But I want to pivot real quick to your show. We've talked a lot about where you're going, where you're heading. Obviously, we're very excited for you, and we're looking forward to you reporting back at some point,
yes.
Which would be great for us. But I want to get into the show itself. Now, you obviously you still do a show for Slate, right? And you've been podcasting a long time, but I want to talk about the impetus. What made you want to start the Best Advice show? And tell our listeners, I think it's sort of inherent in the name, but at the same time, spell out what an average listener can hear week to week.
So each episode of the Best Advice show, it comes out twice a week. You will hear a different guest offering one piece of advice. So it's not me giving the advice, it's me getting the advice. And you're in and out in like 5 or 10 minutes. You can hear Denise and James giving me advice about how to uproot your entire life in a way that feels possible. And, the next episode, you can hear someone talking about unlocking their creative potential. The next episode, you can hear about advice about what to do if you go to the bathroom in the forest and you don't have toilet paper. Like we're running the gamut, folks. The idea is that each different episode is going to be different from the next, and it's something that you can hear and try to implement that day if you want. So like short, kind of spirited, actionable advice is what I'm after.
It's a happy show. So what made you start it, and how long have you been doing it?
I have been doing it for over 600 episodes. I started I started in April of 2020. So a month after COVID started. I had been planning it for months before, so it wasn't COVID. It wasn't like inspired by COVID. But it used to be daily. I was doing it Monday through Friday for the first year plus, but that became untenable because I had just too much other work. But the idea was this was before our son was born, and it was when my daughter was 3, and I had just started to give her gummy vitamins, and I was thinking about like the nature of a gummy vitamin. Like it's packed with nutrients, but it's also like sugary and tasty. Yeah. So it's something that you want to ingest, and you get some good stuff from it, but it's also like candy. And I was just wondering, like, what's the podcast version of a gummy vitamin? Like what's just like compressed, sugary, full of nutrients and sweetness. And
you did it.
I was thinking.
Yeah, mission accomplished, dude.
You really did. You really did.
So out of all the episodes, what is one of your favorite pieces of advice that a listener has given you?
One that I feel like I probably use the most is, and it sounds so simple, but I realized when my friend Daniel gave me this advice that I wasn't actually doing it. When someone thanks you for something, just say you're welcome. Don't say, oh, no, thank you, or no problem. Because when you say you're welcome, you're accepting the compliment. When you don't, you're just kind of deflecting. And I find that when I say you're welcome, like my shoulders drop, and it's better for the person thanking you. Because if you just kind of boomerang thank you back with another thank you, I find now after having started to implement the you're welcome, it's less meaningful. And so when someone thanks you, just say you're welcome. It's not easy to do. Try it.
You're probably right. I mean, I have to think about it.
That.
I think I'm one of the people who's like, oh no, it's nothing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like actually it is something.
You're right. It is actually
You're welcome.
something. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna have to implement that. So, do you personally have any best advice for our listeners? What is one of your pieces of advice?
I talk to strangers, which YouTube can probably relate to. I mean, I owe my career to talking to strangers. I learned it from my grandfather and my mom. I think that's just such a good way to kind of get out of your, if you don't, you're talking to the same people every day.
Right.
You're not really being socially challenged. And I think talking to strangers is just such a good way to remember that the world is actually friendly, and that we can kind of have these small impacts on other people day to day.
That is excellent advice. I don't think I can add on to that.
That's really good.
Zach, we want to thank you so much for coming on today, and telling us about your journey. We wish you the best of luck in Amsterdam. We think you're going to do just swell. It sounds like you've got a plan. You've already got your support system, and we are going to definitely leave your show in the liner notes of our show. Appreciate you being here today. Good luck with the move. I know you have stuff to do. We don't want to keep you any longer.
I'm literally going to pack up my office now.
Well, we're going to follow up with a part 2 in like 6 months
I would love to.
Where is Zach right now and family? So
yes,
so we're going to do that.
Fun.
Yeah, for sure. All right,
Great
everybody.
to see you both.
Zak Rosen from the Best Advice Show. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Empty nest, full tank.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.